When the man you love more than life itself leaves you with 2 newborn babies for his mother's money, you realize love doesn't always conquer greed, but sometimes betrayal becomes fate's greatest gift. I still remember that cursed morning phone call that shattered my life in an instant. If someone had told me a heart could literally break from a few words, I wouldn't have believed them. But when the man I loved with all my soul stood in the doorway of our tiny apartment, his eyes empty, and said he was leaving me with 2-week-old twins, I learned that love can indeed kill. Michael Harrison. Even now, years later, his name stirs a storm of conflicting emotions in me. I met him on a rainy October day in a small Boston cafe, both of us seeking shelter from a sudden downpour. I was a young interior designer, fresh out of college, brimming with hopes and ambitions. And he was the heir to the Harrison Empire, one of the most powerful construction dynasties on the East Coast. But that day, he was just a charming guy with piercing green eyes and a smile that took my breath away. He bought me coffee and told jokes as the rain raged outside. I fell for him before I even knew his last name. "You know, Ellen," he said, looking into my eyes, "I have a feeling you and I were made for each other." God, how naive I was. The first few months were a fairy tale. Michael wasn't like other wealthy men. He never flaunted his riches or acted superior. Instead, he was gentle, attentive, caring. We spent hours wandering Boston's streets, talking about his dreams, not of business, but of family, children, and building a home by the ocean where we'd grow old together. "I want our kids to grow up surrounded by love," he'd say, holding me close. "Not like I did, in a world of pretense and hypocrisy." I believed every word. We planned our future, talked about marriage, and how many kids we wanted. When I got pregnant, Michael was over the moon. "We're going to do this," he shouted, spinning me around the room. "We'll build the happiest family in the world." But I didn't know there was a woman in his world who would never let that happen. Victoria Harrison. I still shudder thinking about our first meeting. She invited us to a family dinner at the Harrison Mansion when I was 4 months pregnant. Michael was nervous the entire drive. "Just be yourself, darling," he said, squeezing my hand. "Mom can seem a bit strict, but she's a good woman." The Harrison Mansion was breathtaking. Marble columns, crystal chandeliers, paintings by famous artists on the walls. But all that beauty couldn't hide the chill radiating from the woman who owned it. Victoria Harrison was strikingly beautiful, even in her 50s. Perfect hair, an expensive dress, jewelry worth more than my yearly salary. But her eyes, steely, cold, and calculating, were what stood out. "So, this is the girl who thinks she can join our family?" she said, not even bothering to greet me. "Mom, please," Michael started, but she silenced him with a raised hand. "Ellen, is it?" She stepped closer, and I caught the scent of her expensive perfume. "Tell me, dear, what can you offer my son? Besides, of course, the obvious." She glanced at my growing belly with disdain, and I felt my face flush. "Mom!" Michael exclaimed, but Victoria only smirked. "I just want to understand, Michael. This girl works as a designer at some tiny firm with no connections, no money, no prestigious degree. What can she possibly bring to the Harrison family?" "She can give me love," Michael said quietly. "Real love." Victoria laughed, a sound like cracking ice. "Love? My dear boy, love is a luxury only the poor can afford. You and I were made for greater things." Throughout the dinner, she dismantled me with cutting remarks about my clothes, my background, my modest plans for the future. She did it so skillfully that an outsider might think she was just curious about me. "Of course, if you truly love my son," she said as we left, "you'll realize the best thing you can do for him is to step aside. Let him live the life he was born for." I didn't respond then. I was too shocked by her blatant cruelty, but now I see. It was a declaration of war. After that dinner, Michael changed. At first, it was subtle. He stayed late at work, answered my calls less often, his phone constantly buzzing with calls from his mother. When I tried to talk about it, he brushed me off. "It's just work, Ellen. The family business takes time." But I saw his torment. After every call with his mother, he grew more distant, more brooding. "Michael, talk to me," I pleaded one night. "What's going on? What's she saying to you?" He stared out the window for a long time before turning to me, pain in his eyes. "She says I'm destroying the family, that if I marry you, I'll lose everything. The inheritance, the business, respect. And, is that more important than our love?" "No." He grabbed my hands. "Of course not. I love you, Ellen. I love our kids. But I don't know how to fight her. She always gets her way." I should have known then that we'd already lost. I should have seen that a weak man tied to his mother's apron strings could never protect his family. But I was in love. I believed love would win. How foolish I was. As my due date approached, things got worse. Michael was rarely home, and when he was distracted, nervous. He stopped talking about our future, stopped making plans. Sometimes I caught him looking at me with guilt and pity. "Do you still love me?" I asked him a week before the twins were born. "I do," he said, but he couldn't meet my eyes. That's when I knew I'd already lost him. The birth was grueling, 36 hours of pain. But when I saw my twins' faces, a boy and a girl, all the suffering vanished. Michael was there, holding our babies, and for a fleeting moment, I believed everything would be okay. "They're perfect," he whispered, kissing their tiny heads. "Our babies are perfect." But a week after we left the hospital, my worst fear came true. I was feeding the twins when I heard the door open. Michael walked in, but he wasn't the man who'd promised me forever just days before. He was a stranger with empty eyes and a face twisted in pain. "We need to talk," he said, not even saying hello. I gently laid the babies in their crib and turned to him. There was something in his voice that made my heart clench with fear. "Michael, what's wrong? You look awful." I can't do this, Ellen." "Can't do what?" "This, us. The family." He ran a trembling hand through his hair. "Mom was right. We're from different worlds." "What are you talking about?" I felt the ground slip from under me. "I have to leave." Those words hit like lightning. What did you say?" "I said I have to leave. I can't be with you." "Michael, these are our children, our family. How can you—" "I know," he shouted, and the babies started crying. "You think this is easy for me? You think I want this? Then why? Why are you doing this?" He stared at the crying babies for a long moment before meeting my eyes. "Because Mom was right. If I stay with you, I'll lose everything, the business, the inheritance, my future, and what can I give you in return? Who am I without all that?" "You'd be their father!" I screamed, pointing at the twins. "You'd be my husband! Isn't that enough?" "No." He shook his head. "It's not enough. I need more." In that moment, I realized the man I loved never existed. Standing before me was a selfish coward, ready to trade his own children for his mother's money. "Get out," I whispered. "Ellen, Get out!" I screamed so loudly the babies cried harder. "Get out of here! And don't ever come back!" Michael lingered for a moment, then turned and walked to the door. At the threshold, he paused. "I'm sorry," he said, not looking back. "Never," I replied. "I'll never forgive you." The door slammed shut, leaving me alone with 2 newborns and a shattered heart. The days after Michael left were a nightmare. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't even cry. It felt like my tears had dried up. I just sat in a chair, rocking the babies, staring into nothingness. Friends called, but I didn't answer. How could I explain that the man I thought was the love of my life had abandoned me with 2 newborns? How could I admit I'd been foolish enough to believe in a fairy tale? But the twins couldn't wait for me to pull myself together. They needed food, care, love. Slowly, I forced myself to function, getting up at night for their cries, changing diapers, feeding them. I moved like a robot. Money ran out terrifyingly fast. Michael hadn't left a cent. Apparently, even supporting his own children was beneath him. I started looking for work, but who hires a woman who just gave birth to twins? "I'm sorry," agencies told me, "but we need someone who can fully commit to the job. With young kids, you can't work overtime. Maybe wait until the kids are older?" Each rejection felt like a slap. I was sinking, and no one was there to throw me a lifeline. But one rainy evening, sitting on the floor of our tiny apartment, surrounded by bills and the twins' cries, something in me shifted. I looked at my babies, so small, so helpless, so dependent on me, and realized I had no right to give up. "Mommy won't let you down," I whispered, holding them close. "No matter what, Mommy will fight." And fight I did. My first job came through online interior design projects. The pay was meager, but it was something. I worked at night while the twins slept, sometimes until 4 a.m., then got up at 6 to feed them. The cycle repeated daily. Exhaustion was so intense, I sometimes fell asleep standing. But I didn't give up. I couldn't. One sleepless night, while working on design projects for other people's homes, an idea struck me that changed my life. I was dressing the twins in their tiny outfits when it hit me. The children's clothing market was either outrageously expensive or terribly low quality. Beautiful clothes cost a fortune, and affordable ones looked like potato sacks. What if, I thought, inspecting a onesie that fell apart after 2 washes. I borrowed a sewing machine from a neighbor and bought fabric at clearance sales. My first designs were far from perfect, but when I dressed the twins in them and posted photos online, the response was unexpected. "Where did you get those adorable clothes? What brand is this? I want one. Can you make something like that for my daughter?" That's how the idea for Angel's Touch was born. The name came naturally as I watched my sleeping babies. They truly looked like little angels. My first order was a $30 dress for a baby in California. When the payment came through, I cried, not from joy, but from relief. I could buy formula for a week. The next few months were hell. I worked as a designer by day, sewed at night, and cared for the twins around the clock. I slept 2 or 3 hours a day, sometimes nodding off at the sewing machine. But orders grew, 1 or 2 a week, then daily. Our tiny apartment turned into a workshop. The breakthrough came when a popular mom blogger with 2 million followers posted a photo of her child in one of my onesies. Overnight, my Instagram exploded, thousands of inquiries, hundreds of comments, endless DMs. I didn't sleep for 3 days, answering emails and taking orders. I knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance, and I couldn't let it slip. I rented a small workshop, hired seamstresses, and bought professional equipment. Within 6 months, Angel's Touch became one of the most talked about children's brands on social media. But most importantly, I proved to myself I could survive. Not just survive. Thrive. 3 years passed. The twins were walking and talking. My business was booming, 5 stores in different cities with plans for expansion. I'd moved into a spacious house with a garden, the kind I'd once dreamed of. I thought I'd forgotten Michael, that he was just a bitter memory, but fate had other plans. I was at the park with the kids when I saw a familiar figure by the playground. Michael stood by the fence watching us. He'd aged, grown thinner, with a desperate look in his eyes. "Mom, who's that?" my daughter Sophie asked, noticing I'd stopped. "No one, sweetie. Let's keep going." But Michael approached. "Ellen, wait. Please," I turned to face him, the first time in 3 years. "What are you doing here?" My voice was ice. I wanted to see them. My kids." "Your kids?" I laughed. "You don't have kids, Michael. Remember? You walked away." "Ellen, I know I was wrong. I was a coward, a selfish idiot. But I'm sorry. I want to make it right." "Make it right?" I looked at him with contempt. "You think you can show up after 3 years and say, 'Sorry, I changed my mind'?" "I lost everything." His voice trembled. "Mom cut me off when she found out I was looking for you. The business collapsed. I have nothing." "And? You think that gives you the right to come back into our lives?" "I'm their father!" "No!" I shouted, startling the kids. "You're a sperm donor. A father gets up at night for a sick child. A father reads bedtime stories. A father is there. You're just the guy who slept with their mother." Michael paled but didn't back down. "Ellen, I've changed. I made a terrible mistake. Give me a chance to be a father." "Too late," I said, taking the kids' hands. "Too late, Michael. We're doing just fine without you." "Ellen, please." "No. If you come near my kids again, I'm calling the police." I walked away with the twins, feeling his gaze on my back for a long time. Michael didn't give up. He called, texted, tried to meet. I ignored him, but he was persistent. Finally, I agreed to one meeting, to put an end to it once and for all. We met at the same cafe where we'd first met 5 years ago. Poetic, isn't it? Michael looked worse than before. Losing his fortune had clearly taken a toll. "Thank you for coming," he said as I sat across from him. "I'm here to tell you one last time. Leave us alone." "Ellen, I love you. I've always loved you. I made a mistake, but—" "A mistake?" I cut him off. "You call betraying your family a mistake?" "I was young, stupid. Mom pressured me, threatened me. And you think it was easy for me?" You think I didn't want to give up when I was alone with 2 newborns, no money, no job, no support? I know you went through hell, and I'm in awe of what you've achieved. Your business, your strength. Don't! I slammed my fist on the table. Don't you dare say you're proud of me. If you hadn't betrayed me, I wouldn't have had to become strong. Michael fell silent, and I continued. You know what's funny? I should thank you. Your betrayal was the best thing that ever happened to me. If you'd stayed, I'd still be a dependent little girl. Now I'm an independent, successful woman. Ellen, I'm not the naive fool who believed in fairy tales anymore. I raised 2 amazing kids, built a thriving business, created a life I'm proud of. And you know what? I don't need a man to be happy. But the kids need a father. They need a father, not a traitor who came back because he ran out of money. I stood to leave, but Michael grabbed my hand. Ellen, wait. I've changed. I've realized money means nothing compared to family. Give me a chance to prove it. I pulled my hand free and looked at him with pity. Michael, you still don't get it. It's not about the money. It's about how you betrayed us when I needed you most. You chose the easy path, and now when you're down, you suddenly remember us. That's not true. It's exactly true. You're selfish, Michael. You only think about yourself. Your comfort then, your loneliness now. You never thought about us. I headed for the door but turned back one last time. You know what? I forgive you. Michael looked up, shocked. Yes, I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I don't need to carry this burden anymore. I forgive you, Michael, but that doesn't mean I'm giving you a second chance. Ellen, please, no. You made your choice 3 years ago. Now live with it. I walked out of the cafe, and only on the street did I realize I was crying. But they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of freedom. I'd finally let go of the past. Time passed. The kids grew, my business thrived. I launched a line of children's shoes, then toys. Angel's Touch became a true empire. Stores in 20 cities, nationwide online sales, a staff of 200. But most importantly, I was happy. I learned to love my independence, take pride in my achievements, and cherish every moment with my kids. And then, when I least expected it, David came into my life. We met at a playground. His daughter was playing with my twins, and we started talking on a bench. He was a widower, having lost his wife in a car accident 2 years earlier. A calm, kind man who didn't try to impress me with fancy cars or big words. You're an incredible mom, he said, watching me help the kids on the slide. I try, I replied. It's clear they're the center of your universe. Those simple words held more understanding than all of Michael's empty promises. David didn't rush me. He knew I had reasons to distrust men. For months, he was just there, as a friend, a support, someone who always listened. I'm not in a hurry, he said one day as we walked in the park. I have time. We have time. He loved my kids like his own. He didn't try to replace their father, but was there when they needed a man's support. Teaching Jacob to play soccer, helping Sophie with math, reading them bedtime stories when I worked late. Mom, will Uncle David be our dad? Sophie asked one day. Do you want him to be? I asked. So much. He loves us. And he won't leave, right? How do you know? Because when he looks at us, his eyes are like yours. Happy. Kids, it turns out, see what adults sometimes miss. Our wedding was quiet, intimate, just close family and genuine love. David adopted my kids, and they proudly took his last name. But fate had one final test. A week before the wedding, I got a call from an unfamiliar woman. "Ellen Thompson? This is Victoria Harrison's attorney. My client would like to meet with you." "Why?" I didn't hide my surprise. "She'll explain herself. It's about your children." Curiosity got the better of me. What could the woman who once humiliated me want now? Victoria Harrison arrived at my office right on time. She hadn't changed much, still that cold beauty, expensive clothes, regal posture, but there was something new in her eyes. Fatigue? Regret. "Ellen," she said, sitting across from me. "Thank you for meeting me. Honestly, I don't understand why. I want to apologize." I couldn't hide my shock. Victoria Harrison, apologizing. It felt like a miracle. "I was wrong," she continued. "I ruined my son's life, kept him from his children and hurt you. And for what? Money that can't buy happiness." "What happened?" I sensed something serious behind this visit. "Michael died." The words hit like a slap. Despite everything, he was my children's father. "When?" "A month ago. Overdose. He couldn't cope with losing his family. Debts, depression, drugs." She paused, fighting her emotions. "He talked about you and the kids until his last day, about how he regretted his choice." I stayed silent, unsure of what to say. "Ellen, I'm not just here to apologize. I want to offer something." "What?" "An inheritance. Michael was my only son. When he died, I realized my money is meaningless. I want to leave it to my grandchildren." "We don't need your money," I said firmly. "I know. You're doing brilliantly on your own, but think about the kids, their future, education, opportunities. They'll have all that without your help." "Maybe, but it's their birthright, and my way of atoning for my mistakes." I thought long and hard about Victoria's offer, not because of the money. I'd learned to earn my own, but for the kids. Did they have a right to their father's inheritance? "Mom, why are you sad?" Jacob asked as I tucked them in. "Just thinking about important things, sweetie." "Can Uncle David help? He's our dad now, right?" "He can," I smiled. "He always does." And David did help me decide. "It's not about the money," he said. "It's about giving the kids a choice. When they're older, they can decide what to do with it." I accepted Victoria's offer, but on one condition: the money would go into a trust fund the kids could access only when they turned 18. "A wise choice," Victoria said. "I'm proud they're your children. Michael was right. You're an extraordinary woman." 5 more years passed. I'm 40 now, with a beautiful family, a thriving business, and most importantly, I'm happy. David turned out to be the man I deserved. Reliable, loving, devoted. The kids are teenagers now. Jacob's into coding. Sophie dreams of becoming a doctor. They know the truth about their biological father, but call David Dad, the man who raised them. Sometimes I wonder what my life would have been like if Michael hadn't left. I'd probably still be a dependent woman living in a man's shadow. But fate had other plans. The betrayal that could have broken me made me stronger. I have no regrets. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of despair led me to who I am today. I'm Ellen Miller, successful businesswoman, loving mother, happy wife. And you know what? I'm proud of myself. Because sometimes the greatest betrayal becomes fate's greatest gift. It forces us to discover what we're truly capable of when we have no choice but to be strong. And I was strong. I survived. I won. Did you like the story? Write your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next interesting story. See you tomorrow.